drawn to you. Kaito's world was a universe of ink and paper. By day, he was a quiet assistant manga artist. By night, he was the god of his own world, sketching stories he was too shy to live. His apartment was small, but his imagination was infinite. His greatest creation was a girl he called Lena. He drew her with a kind smile, eyes full of wonder, and a spirit he wished he had. She was the hero of his unwritten masterpiece, the perfect person to share his quiet world with. One rainy night, as thunder rattled the window panes, Kaito reached for his ink. His hand slipped, and the bottle of his favorite black ink toppled over, spilling across the finished drawing of Lena. The ink didn't stain the paper. Instead, it glowed with an impossible, ethereal light. The pool of black shimmered, and from the page, a hand reached out. Slowly, Lena rose from the drawing, standing in his room, real and solid, but with empty, searching eyes. Kaito could only stare, speechless. "Lena?" he whispered. She didn't respond. She stood perfectly still, like a beautiful, life-size doll. She was here, but she wasn't. There was no recognition in her eyes, no soul behind her smile. A frantic idea struck him. He grabbed a sketchbook and quickly drew a small speech bubble next to a sketch of Lena. Inside, he wrote, "Hello, Kaito." He held it up. The real Lena turned her head towards him. Her lips moved, and in a soft, monotone voice, she said, "Hello, Kaito." The words were his, not hers. He had drawn her to life, but he had forgotten to give her a life of her own. He felt a sharp pang of guilt. He had wished for a companion, not a puppet. Looking at the beautiful, empty girl before him, he realized he hadn't created a person. He had just extended his lonely, scripted world into reality. "This has to change," he said to himself. The next day, he didn't pick up his pen. Instead, he opened his front door. "Lena," he said gently, "would you like to go for a walk?" He didn't write the question down. He just hoped. He took her to a park filled with the sounds of laughing children and rustling leaves. He didn't tell her to smile or what to look at. He just sat with her on a bench, describing the world in his own words, hoping something would connect. Suddenly, a small calico cat, curious and bold, hopped onto the bench. It padded over and rubbed its head against Lena's hand. Lena flinched, pulling her hand back with a tiny gasp. Her eyes widened in genuine surprise. Kaito's heart leaped. It was a tiny reaction, a simple reflex, but it was hers. It wasn't drawn, and it wasn't written. For the first time, Lena had acted on her own. A real, unscripted smile, his own, spread across Kaito's face. That small moment opened the floodgates. They explored the city together. She discovered she liked the taste of matcha ice cream, the sound of rain on an umbrella, and the warmth of the sun. Kaito didn't draw her life. He shared his with her. She began to change. She started choosing her own clothes, humming tunes she heard in cafes, and pointing at things that caught her eye. The empty canvas was finally being filled with the colors of her own experiences. But the real world had deadlines. Kaito's editor called furious. He was weeks behind on his manga. "Just draw. It's what you're good at," he yelled over the phone. Panicked, Kaito looked at Lena. The temptation to script her, just for a few poses to save time, was immense. He sat her down, his pen and sketchbook in hand. "Lena, I just need you to hold this pose," he said, his voice faltering. He began to sketch her as a tragic heroine for his story, a character in peril. She looked at the drawing, then at him. A storm of emotions, confusion, hurt, resolve, flashed in her eyes. She put her hand over his, stopping the pen. "No," she said. The word was quiet, but it was the loudest sound Kaito had ever heard. "I am not her," Lena said, struggling with the words but clear in her meaning. She pointed at the drawing. "I am Lena." In that moment, Kaito saw his mistake. He wasn't trying to save his job. He was trying to put the person he loved back into a box. He dropped the pen. It rolled off the desk and lay forgotten on the floor. He stood up and took her hands in his. "You're right," he said, his voice thick with emotion. I'm so sorry. Your story is your own. I don't want to be its author. I just want to be in it. He didn't know what would happen with his job or how their impossible life would work, but for the first time, he wasn't afraid of the blank page. Together, they walked out the door, leaving the ink and paper behind, ready to discover their own story, one unscripted, beautiful day at a time.